Right, Cam. You know, I follow this stuff and I try to track everybody in the nation. And I love college football and I will watch any game at any time. And again, I try to cover as much as possible and try to see everybody. But this program, I think I've told you this before, is one of the few programs in the nation that truly fascinates me. So it's UCLA out west for reasons that I think that they should do much better than they actually play on the field because of where they're located, that they should be able to get recruits. They should be able to hang with USC, and they just don't. So they're a program that fascinates me. Penn State just in recent years because of the Paterno situation in Sandusky, and if they were going to bounce back, but not Penn State in and of themselves. This would be the only other one that fascinates me all the time. And this is a situation with you get a big name coach, you get a guy who's proven that he can win. You have the talent already on the roster to a certain extent, but as we've talked about, and you've thrown out the numbers and really convinced me that didn't need to convince me. I knew what the talent level was in South Florida, but basically gave me confirmation of the 4- and 5-star recruits right in your backyard that this is a keg that could just explode at some point.
Yeah, and a lot of people talk about college football being better when Miami is good. And it balances the country, and we're a microwave dynasty, as it were, like Miami, until the 80s wasn't really anything to speak of for college football purposes. And, going back and forth on Twitter with West Virginia fans leading up to and in the aftermath of the Russell Athletic Bowl, they're talking about, okay, all-time wins. Like, we have so many more than Miami and this, that, and the third. And a good friend of mine, Ian Hest, who works down here in South Florida, he's a journalist, he put up a tweet and said, don't let anybody ever get away with the all-time wins argument because number 2 on that list is Yale. And they're nobody's powerhouse. You're never going to convince anybody that, okay, Yale is. So, yeah, but it's been basically, since the late 70s, early 80s. So, basically spanning my lifetime is when Miami has been a team that has been in the national spotlight of college football. And I'm going to go there because this is a time when I will go there. 5, should be 6 national championships. Guys, the most first-round draft picks off of one team ever. The first most tied for the most first-round draft picks in any one singular draft. I mean, legends at every position on the field. I mean, in this recruiting class, we have Zach Fiegels, who's committed, who's the son of Jeff Fiegels, who went to the University of Miami and punted in the NFL for 22 seasons. So even if you're going down to the end of the bench on special teams, he only punts 3 or 4 times a game. We have one of the best guys at that position in the history of football has come from our program. So I don't think it's just you who is really like, okay, well, yeah, I'm fascinated by Miami. Even if there's people who love to hate us, like they want to see Miami so they can root against us because, we're all that is evil and unholy in football and everything. But yeah, with the recruiting base that we have down here, with our talent, with our history of success, I think that Miami is a team that people should and do worry about. If you look at the ratings for our bowl games, ratings for the Thursday night games when we're on ESPN, ratings all time on games on ESPN, near at the top of all those lists is going to be a game with the University of Miami. So I know people say and have continued to say, oh, Miami's not relevant. Miami has not been good recently. Miami has been relevant since 1979. And so I think that, while people might not want to admit that, I think there are a lot of people out there like you who, for whatever reason, one or another, look at the University of Miami as one of those programs that if college football is going to be great, Miami should be great.
Okay, I don't think you can disagree with this, and this is a great discussion for another time, that when you talk about you bring up West Virginia. Anybody who follows college football and has an inkling of the way things stand today and the way they've stood for all time generally can categorize West Virginia. They're a top 30 program in the country, and they should know where they sit, and that's basically what it is. They've had a nice tradition, a nice program, but nobody cares that much outside of West Virginia about right. West Virginia. The thing about Miami is you would get the most polar opposite arguments about Miami, both negative and positive. And I'm not talking about people that hate on Miami. I'm talking about even objective observers like myself. You would get the most polar opposite arguments about where the program places whole time for many of the reasons you just cited, because it just came onto the map in 1980 won a first national championship in 1983, where all the blue bloods, you go back to the 20s or the 30s, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, USC, Texas, on down the line. And that's part of it. Florida State would also be in that kind of, are they one of the elite, or what have they really done? What did they do before 1980 kind of argument? So there is an interesting argument where you would place Miami if you're taking the entirety of college football history. You would have to agree with that you could understand people weighing in. Like if you throw out Oklahoma and you have a 10-person panel of very knowledgeable people, they're going to slot Oklahoma fairly close to the same spot. And you could go on down the line with everybody that's relevant. And then you throw Miami, you could have a number 3 ranking, you could have a number 15 rank. They could be all over the place because of that history kind of being just emerging, like you say, in the microwave, and then also even after they emerged here in the last 15 years, it being very uneven.
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, the variance that we'll call it, of where people might place Miami would be the greatest of any team, out there, So, and also notice, anybody watching, Mark is the one who brought up Florida State. I didn't say anything about them, so just gonna put that out there because I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's an interesting study when you really look at, okay, for some of those teams, like I grew up in the state of Michigan. This is the University of Michigan Stadium over my shoulder. Like I grew up as a Michigan fan. I went there for games. I was there for the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary, all those kind of things. For Michigan, if you look back, the school was founded in like 1827 or something like that, and has been playing, football since the dawn of time. It's been consistent for way more than 100 years. But for Miami, the University of Miami wasn't even founded until 1925. There were years where we didn't even, have a football team. And then it was a middling outfit. And then, once Schnellenberger got there, boom, it just took off. So, you have that. So you're talking about, the university was around for 50-something years, and the football team didn't do anything of relative note. And then all of a sudden just took off, exponential growth. Versus Michigan, and again, I'm saying that because I'm a native Michigander. I grew up in Detroit, and over my shoulder. But I'm saying, there's been consistency basically for the 130 years of college football. Like it's a very different kind of situation. But I enjoy it. Obviously this is my school. I bleed orange and green. I'm wearing orange and green every time that I come on to the show. But yeah, it would be interesting really when you think about it's almost like talking about a basketball MVP. Like, what is the qualification for that? Are we only going on a recency bias? Are we going all time? Are we looking at, only college production? Are we adding in NFL and professional things? Like, there's so many ways that you can couch it. And depending on how you look at it, Miami could be number 1, which I think is fair. I don't think that everybody would put them there, but you could make a case for them at number 1. You can make a case for them at number 33, technically. But it's just all on how you want to look at the situation and kind of through the prism that you're looking at how you're going to evaluate these teams. But yeah, I think that brings up a very interesting conversation.
All right, Cam Underwood, State of the U. Always an interesting conversation, whether it's historic or otherwise. It's usually the here and now. Today with recruiting, with the quarterback situation, and obviously with a number of NFL players added to the log of NFL players that came and hailed from the University of Miami. All right, Cam, appreciate the time, man.